The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello Cherries fans, hello Sunderland fans, and welcome to the Dean Court Social. And it wouldn't be the Dean Court Social without my main man next to me, Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to this weekend's game. Let's hope we can get 3 points on the board.
100%. Now, before we get going, thank you to our two sponsors. Firstly, Touchpoint Telecoms at touchpointtelecoms.co.uk. If you want your telecoms sorted anywhere from Sunderland to, I'm trying to avoid Southampton because I did mention that in my other interview. I'm not mentioning them again. Swindon, there we are. Sunderland to Swindon, get in contact with Mark and the team. And also, if you need your lashes sorted, go to dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So thank you to our two sponsors. And of course, we are the Talksport Fan Network, AFC Bournemouth channel of choice. So thank you if you are lending us your ears on Spotify, Apple, wherever. But I tell you what, let's get stuck into it and let's discuss very quickly our previous game. Of course, at home, a very, very wet, windy Dean Court against West Ham United, ended 2-2. I'll give my verdict of events in a moment because I haven't given those yet. But Matt, neither of you, what do you think?
Yeah, we got absolutely blimmin' soaked, but hey ho. But yeah, it wasn't nice sitting there soaked through 2-0 down. Yeah, disappointing to start with. I felt that, on paper we should have done better, but obviously football's not playing on paper, is it? But when you look back at it, I mean, that first half, in fairness to West Ham, they took their chances, didn't they? It's just quite simple as that. Wilson didn't touch the ball at all, did he, really, in the open play? I think, isn't he a record for scoring 2 goals in a Premier League game without actually touching the ball? Apart from the strikes.
Something like that, isn't it?
Over the weekend. Disappointing, but, fair play to Andoni again. He knows his squad. He knows how to adapt it. The changes he made, again, were spot on. I think it was a brave move, again, to take off Diakite and put, Cook into that sort of role there. It was funny, definitely a game of two halves, wasn't it? And fair play to Enes for coming off the bench and scoring that, but also massive credit to Senesi for his pass. But it was disappointing at home to have to come back and draw that one. Really, I think that's definitely 2 points dropped. From our perspective, but at the end of the day, fair play to West Ham. In fairness, from West Ham's perspective, I think actually taking Wilson off disturbed their shape. I thought at that point, it was a bizarre time to make the substitution as well. What was it, 7 minutes into the second half? And, I just thought they were sitting too deep too early. which I think cost them, which is just why they made that move for us. But when you're looking at it from a footballing perspective, it does make you wonder why they took him off when he did. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we've come on the back of a couple of defeats. We've now managed to grind a draw out, and you know, let's look forward. You know, the points tally's still good, the position in the league still good. So, you know, all in all, you know, it's you know, a good point, a good point again on the board. But you know, just going down 2-0 for me was very disappointing.
Yeah, I got completely agree with you. At halftime, I was very, very disappointed. I thought that the performance was a step up from Aston Villa. Let's be honest, anything would have been a step up, really. That is without a doubt one of our poorest performances, not just of recent years, but in the Premier League eras. In fact, there was games that I was comparing it to, like the defeat against Huddersfield Town, where you know sadly Simon Francis had a right mare. But in all honesty, I thought that the first half we just weren't at the races. We weren't, the passing was there, but we wasn't doing anything with it, and we was making sloppy mistakes. I think the first goal, to be perfectly honest, was avoidable. The second goal, we just didn't read it right, and rightly so, to be perfectly honest, with the opportunities that we conceded at the back, and we went in 2-0 down. I thought West Ham were better than what their league position showed at that point. And then, like you say, they made a really ridiculous and a very strange, and I've spoken to a good friend Lewis with regards to this as well, taking off Callum Wilson. And then they did, like you say, just went a bit too defensive. The penalty, in all honesty, if you use your hand to scoop the ball, I think it was a penalty and a red card. In my honest opinion, Marcus took it brilliantly. Fantastic penalty. And then Enes, now he seems to like scoring against West Ham to make it 2-0. Did it again, and I thought, a very, very well taken strike, absolutely brilliant. And then from that point onwards, to be honest, for the majority of the second half, we were much the better side. And West Ham, it felt like they were holding on. It was a little bit like a James Bond moment where you've got the James Bond villain just trying to hold on for dear life and, trying to pull themselves up. And they just about did it. If it had gone on another 5 minutes, I think we win that game. Honestly, I think we win that game because the cracks were showing, but West Ham fans have got every right to be annoyed. Luckily it's worked in our favour. Nuno did make a complete hash of the substitutions. Fulkrug, I don't think should be anywhere near the West Ham team. And in all honesty, Souček, I know he's got a very good record against us, but why do you make a substitution like that? And why do you put him in a position like that? But like I say, I'm not moaning. I'm quite happy that they've done that. And their failings are gains. So, yeah, we move on. And now we've got to build on that. We've got to build on that with a win up at Sunderland.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's what the boys and Noni are going to be working towards. So, but yeah, I suppose it's a good point to touch on their season so far, because to be fair, I think everybody probably tipped them to go straight back down, but at the moment they're doing pretty well, aren't they?
Yes, and to be honest, the way they come out of the Championship, I know they went through the playoffs. I know that it was a Kiefer Moore error that actually helped them get there, but it's what they've spent, how they've spent it. How they've spent it is more important. And that squad, that seems to has seemed to have momentum ever since they got back into the Championship, because of course they went through that drop off where they went to League One, and it all collapsed. Joe Rodwell, had his hissy fit, didn't he, at the end of the Premier League season for them? They got relegated, then it got relegated again. It was a long journey back up. They've always seemed to have that momentum since they got promoted back from that division. And I think that momentum's actually set them in good stead this season as well. But it's sensible signings as well. Just looking at their results, of course, they started the season with a 3-0 win against West Ham. They got beat up at Burnley, and then they've got some really good results. Of course, they beat Forest away, they beat Chelsea away, they
Yeah,
beat Wolves 2-0. Yeah, they did go to Manchester United and get beat 2-0. They've recently been beaten by Fulham. You could say that they're having a little bit of a blip, but how much of a blip is being drawing against Arsenal at home? Of course, the league leaders at the moment. Everton, is that really a blip? A 1-1 draw against Everton as a newly promoted club? Don't think so. The Fulham game's probably the one that they'll look to recently, as well as Burnley, but they've not ashamed themselves whatsoever. And if you actually look at the statistics as well, and this is a really, really, really good point, apart from Crystal Palace, and of course, I should say this as well. I believe it's, yes, apart from Crystal Palace and Arsenal, they've conceded the least amount of goals in the Premier League. They're tied with Chelsea and Aston Villa. And sorry, Manchester City have also conceded less. So, yeah, Arsenal, Man City, and Palace. In all honesty, we've conceded 9 goals more than they have. Um, so it shows that they've done something really right to do that coming straight out of the Championship. Don't get me wrong, I actually predicted for them to stay up. I didn't predict for them to do this though.
yeah. And in the tier list, I predicted with the other guys that they would stay up, and it's good to see. I think it's good for the Premier League as well, good for the Championship. If a
100%.
couple of the sides do stay up this season, and I mean, Sunderland's key for me for Sunderland has been, like you touched on, the summer transfer window, and one particular key player who I'll bring up under our free to watch, who I think has been absolutely excellent for him and has been a masterstroke of a signing. So, yeah, I think that was very, very key. And also, very key is the man at the helm, isn't it?
Yes, Regis Le Bris. And I will let you go into a bit more detail, but of course he's former Lorient manager. So yeah, Bill Foley will know him very well. Of course, Loic Ferry was the man that appointed him at Lorient. Of course, the chairman there, he's got the controlling stake. But what do you make of Regis Le Bris? And firstly, the job he's done in such a short space of time, because he left Lorient by mutual consent.
Yeah, no, he did, didn't he? And I think he's proven his worth at Sunderland, after I think quite a lot of managerial changes I think they had before Le Bris took the job.
Michael
Um,
Beale.
so, uh,
Michael Beale and the Twitter accounts.
oh
Of
yes,
course.
yeah, forgot about
Yes.
him, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there was there was a bit of a merry-go-round, wasn't there, for a little while? But I forgot about that. But yeah, no, he's come in and it looks like he's stabilised the club, and it looks like if
Mhm.
he can keep him in the Premier League, he could stabilise him as a Premier League club as well. But yeah, when you look back, over his career, and like you just briefly touched on there, he was appointed after the Michael Beale after he was sacked. I think that was mid-season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a really weird scenario as well, and it was a point where you did think, well, this might disrupt Sunderland. If nobody knows the story, Michael Beale, wasn't doing particularly that great in a spell. and there was lots of phantom Twitter accounts that kept popping up that were praising Michael Beale. I can't say for certain, but it is understood. And my special guest, Tom A. Smith, as well, did mention this, that Michael Beale was actually behind these Twitter accounts. So, yeah, he was kind of praising himself, which is a new one on me. You know, how much time has anybody got on Twitter? To be honest, I can't stand the bloody place. But, let's be fair. It's an interesting one. But Regis Le Bris picked up the baton and, well, took them back to the promised land.
Oh yeah, and earned himself an extra extension as well. I think he was originally signed up
Yes.
for 2027. They extended it to 2028, didn't they? But yeah, I mean, achievements. I mean, promotion obviously with Sunderland's a massive achievement. Which ended actually, I think was it an 8-year absence? Sunderland.
Yes. Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So his first season, I think, has been described as exceptional. Okay, the playoff final. Yes, unfortunately, Kiefer Moore, fell to the sword, I suppose. With the dodgy pass back. But these things happen. It's just football, isn't it? But that was a really good playoff final, and I think overall, I think Sunderland did deserve to win that one. I think it was actually the guy that went to Brighton that scored the winner, wasn't it? The winger. Forget his name. But he was already signed for Brighton at the time, I think. So that was kind of his farewell game. I think he might come off the bench, actually. I can't remember. But I do remember watching it, real good game of football. And I remember watching it then. That's what made me think, if they can carry this on into the Premier League and that sort of end of season form, they got a good chance of staying up. And, at the minute, they're looking like they have. So look at his coaching style. So, again, a manager who's got quite an emphasis on player development. I think he's worked with youth teams in France. I don't know if he was part of the French, setup for the youngsters or what, but he's worked with youth within France. France. So, collective ambition and energy, and he focuses on building resilience and unity within his squad. Says it all. Resilience is probably why they've, not conceded as many goals as probably people will expect them to have conceded this year. I mean, for them to have conceded, 9 less than we have. I didn't know that stat until you said that, and that's quite surprising, really. But at the same time, you can see from the style of the coach, he's probably built that resilience in the squad to, not concede so many goals, which I think is a great thing to have. Obviously, we did well last season, didn't we, with our centre backs, not to concede as many. But yeah, I think that's a credit to him. Obviously, his background, as we know, in League One, in the French league with a certain club. But there he was praised for developing young talent. And you could see from players that have come out of there, Krupi obviously has come from there. So it looks like they've got a good pedigree of developing young players that Le Bris has had an impact on as well. The Sunderland role is his first role out of France.
Yeah.
But he's doing very, very well, isn't he? Like I say, he looks like he's going to stabilise the club for years to come. The longer term contract, shows the club's intent, shows his intent to want to sustain their Premier League status. And, if they do survive, what's next for him? Is it a case of building the stepping stones for Sunderland, or will another club come in to look to poach him? I mean, he's done an impressive job. I'm not necessarily saying a top 6 club, but an established Premier League club. I mean, I don't know, just chucking this out here, plucking it out of the air from nowhere. But if Glasner was to move on, would he be a right fit for Palace? Who knows? He could definitely manage another club in the Premier League, and if he keeps Sunderland up there, people will start to take notice of him. So all in all, decent manager.
And he was incredibly, unlucky to lose his job, to be honest, at Lorient. I know they got relegated under him. However, you look at the players that they sold, and we'll come on to one as well, who was sold by the club, who he did bring through, who I actually even turned around and said he would be a great signing for AFC Bournemouth, and is now, of course, doing very, very well for Sunderland. I think he probably had his hands a bit tied as well. So I don't put Lorient's relegation all down to him, and he's shown that he's a little bit better, and Sunderland actually had a good eye. But I tell you what, we'll come on to their three to watch in just a moment. Let's talk about AFC Bournemouth again, because there is a problem at this moment in time at our football club, and that is our injury list, which is growing. I wasn't sure what side we were going to play, and we did have to debate it for a long period of time, didn't we, before we actually picked our 11 to start against West Ham, what way Iriola was going to go. Of course, we know how much stuff Iriola has got up his sleeve. He is such a clever man. This is why he is, without a doubt, one of the best managers in the Premier League, and we're so lucky to have him, because he does kind of know different roles that players can fit into. But there is only so much, and are we really struggling with the injuries, or is Iriola's talent of positioning other players kind of papering over the cracks?
Yeah, and I think another question is how long can we manage that for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, look at, like we touched on earlier, against West Ham, made the changes, got something out of it, and that was
Mhm.
with Semenyo being out, Clivert
Yeah.
being out. I think he knows his squad. We have adaptable players, which is always handy. Krupi and Evan Nilsson both playing. Okay, Krupi might have been a bit more out wide. I personally would bring Krupi in behind Evan Nilsson, in my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
Which I think did happen eventually anyway during the game, didn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't it? Anyway,
Yes.
but then again, you have got Enes knocking on the door.
Mm.
So forward line, to play in that forward role, we're pretty healthy. Out wide, Semenyo's always a miss.
Yeah.
Kluivert, in my opinion, is always a miss. But yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me, biggest disappointment for me, because I mean, how long is Semenyo out for? Do we know?
We're not sure. We're hoping that he comes back sooner rather than later. Is he going to be ready for Sunderland? Probably not. If is he going to be ready for Everton? Probably not. But after that, potentially. Hey,
I read first week of December, so I mean that's what I read, but I mean whether that's
yeah,
true.
I think that this game, and I think that the Everton game might be a little bit too soon for him. But after that, hey, I think he's got a shout. But again, the main point here is we don't want to bring him back too early, because I don't think he's going to go anywhere like everybody's going on about. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. It would be better to get him in a position where he's comfortable. And if that's the Chelsea game, perfect. If it's not, and he's not fully fit and he could cause himself a further injury, then there's a little bit of time between that Chelsea game and then, of course, playing Manchester United away from home. So
Mm.
we've got that little bit of time to build up to that match. And in all honesty, I think I wouldn't have a problem with that. If he has to miss these next 2 games, 3 games, and be ready for the Man United game, great. But as long as he's not going to go missing, like I say, I know that there's so much to talk about him at the moment, and I think we just need to put that to the back of our minds, because I can't see him going anywhere in January. I might be wrong, but at the same time, we've just got to go with the presumption that he's a Bournemouth player long term.
Yeah. And for me, in terms of injuries, the Gannon Doak injury is a real gutter.
It is, yeah.
It's been absolutely exceptional for Scotland. And
Mhm.
I think at this time it would have been perfect for him to come in the side and, get some minutes. And unfortunately, that's been, taken from underneath him by the injury that he suffered last week against Denmark, which is a shame. But, I just hope
Yeah.
he can get himself fit before the end of the season. I think, was it 3-4 months they reckon it could be, or I've read somewhere it could be 6 weeks, but I mean, you never know with these hamstring injuries. But
Yeah.
he's gone under the knife. He's going to rehabilitate. However long he takes to come back. As long as he's not rushed, he comes back fit, because
Mhm.
that boy, he's going to the World Cup, and I cannot wait to see him play at the World Cup, because he is an exciting player.
He is,
And
yeah.
from our point of view, he's going to be a big loss, especially with the players that we've got out at the minute.
Mhm.
And then the other question is, Adley. I saw something on one of the socials yesterday or day before, asking people's thoughts on him. Is he a good signing? Is he, and things like that. Is this the time where he needs to step up? I mean, I thought he would have started against West Ham.
Yeah.
Obviously, Andoni, made the decision to, play Krupi and Evan Nilsson. But is he one that can step up and fill that void? That is a question.
Yeah. Most definitely, most definitely. I just want to touch upon one player as well. We did speak about him earlier in the seasons. And that's Julian Arejo. Um, of course, we do have cover. Adam Smith has come back into the fold. Um, Lewis Cook can play in that position. You know,
Jimenez.
Jimenez as well. Yeah, he's really a rare host. A rare host future's finished here, isn't it? And wouldn't it be better for him to see a loan move, or do we need to keep hold of him and see where else on the pitch we could utilize him?
January will tell.
Yeah,
January will tell.
I'm just thinking because of his pace. And this might be a bit of a sideways move, and people in the comments, let me know if you think I'm talking absolute crap. But you could probably play him in a more advanced position because of his pace. I don't think he's particularly that good at the back, but I think, with the pace and, with what he can do on the ball and, getting balls in, that might be an alternative move for him. And we've seen players move from a right back position into a right wing position or midfield position in the past. So I'm just throwing that out there that, that could potentially be an alternative. But I think the right back position, if he's only able to play in that role, I think he's finished. But that might be an option to get round some injuries. But I'll tell you what, there we go. There's one to think about. But let's talk about the three to watch for Sunderland, because Sunderland newly promoted to the Premier League.
Hmm.
They have completely shocked absolutely everybody. They've done really, really well. Who are the three that you've picked out?
Well, probably one obvious one, probably two obvious ones actually.
Yes.
But the first one, a player who was on loan with them, I think, last season. I think he played 26
Yes.
games, scored 9 goals last season. And that is Wilson Isidore.
Isidore, yep.
Isidore. Good player. Yeah, what I like about him, well, what I've seen of him that I like, shall I say, in fairness, because I haven't seen too much of him, but what I have seen, I really like.
Mhm.
So 12 appearances this year so far. This Premier League season, he's got 4 goals. One of them come against Chelsea, I think, if I remember rightly. Again, versatile. Can play a centre forward. Can play on the wing. So gives him some versatility.
Mhm.
But yeah, his main strengths, his pace, his pressing intensity, his finishing in transition. And very good at direct runs as well. So probably could fit in our team pretty well, to be honest. But
Yeah.
works well in Le Bris' system. which emphasises on the vertical attacks and those quick transitions. So, he does have that ability to stretch a defence as well. So, key for me. And I think when we look at our team lineup, our predicted lineup, there's a reason why I put a certain player in there, because I think we are going to need some, real strength against him coming weekend. So, but a good player that's been very, very key for Sunderland, over last season and into this one. And that brings me on nicely to their captain.
Yes.
Arsenal man, Granit Xhaka. Have I said it
Yes.
right?
Oh, you have said it right. You have
I
said it right.
There you go. No, this guy is immense. And you know what? He, and you were saying about the transfer window for them, he for me is the key one.
Yeah.
He's come in, he's 33 now. I'm sure some people will be thinking maybe, how many years has he got left in him? But when you watch him play, I think he's got quite a few years left in him, to be honest. I think he's even attracted the attention of Juventus lately.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Well, Sunderland, I think, have pretty much said back off. But yeah, he's just shown his leadership, which is a massive standout for me. His leadership credentials are fantastic. When you look at it, I mean, you look back at his clubs, Arsenal, Bayer Leverkusen, he's played for some big clubs, and he was very key to Alonso's title winning side that season. They won the Bundesliga, which was a fantastic achievement in itself, and he was said to be one of those standout men. So for Sunderland to capture this guy, it's a massive coup for him. So straight away he was named as captain straight away, and the manager at the time said the reasons for it was that he brings vast experience and demands high standards not only on the pitch but also off them. So that says real captain material, doesn't it? Both and off the pitch is very important as a captain, which is obviously the credentials he's got. So that's something that the manager's highlighted straight away, and I think probably the intention of signing him was probably to make him captain, to be fair. Leadership massive. You look at his role and how he plays, he's a deep lying playmaker. He controls Sunderland's tempo, and he's an organizer. Like you say, of course he's going to be, with his leadership skills. And not only does he organise the midfield, but he organises them from start to finish. So, yeah, massive player for him. He's going to really be a standout player for them. I think this coming weekend is going to be vitally important for him. And yeah, the final one, player that you've mentioned already.
A player I really wanted here.
Yeah, you did say at the time, I remember. But Enzo Le Bris.
Enzo Le Bris, yes.
Hey, I've said it right. See, I'm getting better with these names. Well, the pronunciations of them anyway. But yeah, no, again, a massive talent. Had a spell at Roma, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, he did. He went to Rennes after leaving Lorient. Of course, he did know Regis Le Bris from his time at Lorient. Went to Rennes, then went to Roma, was on loan at Sunderland, and then got the permanent transfer. I think, if I'm right in thinking, it was probably about £20 million that they paid for him. But yeah, he's a really talented young player who I don't really understand why it didn't work out for him at Roma, but he's definitely working out for him at Sunderland, and he's dangerous. But it's not just that, he's one of those players who doesn't just grab the goals, he also creates a lot as well. He finds a lot of space, and he's excellent player and a brilliant sign. He's a centre midfielder after all, but he has got an eye for goal. That's something I picked up at Lorient. He can play in that attacking position, but yeah, he's a very, very big talent, and I'm not sure, but I don't think he's missed a game for Sunderland so far.
I think he's played 12, isn't he, in total?
I
Something like
think
that.
so, yeah. I don't think he's missed a single game for Sunderland. So yes, he's a real good talent. He's 25 years old, and yeah, he's really making his mark,
Yeah,
in the football
yeah.
world.
His other strengths as well are noted to be his passing ability as well.
Hmm.
His range and his vision, his ball retention under pressure, and again alongside his skipper, he can dictate the tempo of that midfield. So, yeah, they're the three key ones I think to watch. To my knowledge, they're all fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a game. I think it's going to be again. It's one of those, isn't it, that we should win, but I think it's going to be a tricky. It's going to be a tricky encounter up there, which I think, to be fair, brings us on pretty nicely to the win probability, doesn't it? To be honest.
It certainly does. Yes. And tell us about the win probability, Matt.
So yeah, the win probability for Bournemouth then, 42% for us approximately.
Hmm.
A win probability for Sunderland sits at 32%, and then the draw probability is at 26%. Now, I think personally that looks about right, but as I'm sure you'll probably say, it might be slightly harsh on Sunderland, but
Mm.
I don't know. I think that's not bad for us. I think that would be good. I think it's good that we've actually got. I think when you look at it, some of the probabilities this season have been a little bit harsh on Bournemouth. I think
Yeah.
looking at this one, I think this one, in fairness, is quite fair to us. But then again,
Mm.
as you've already pointed out before we come on, Sunderland haven't been beaten at Stadium of Light, have they? This,
No, I think, I hope it's right, but I personally think this might be a little bit harsh on Sunderland because they've got some really, really good results at the Stadium of Light. So far, drawing against Arsenal, drawing against Everton, beating Wolves, Aston Villa they drew against, beat Brentford, beat West Ham. So I think it's a little bit harsh, but like I say, I hope it's right. And well, when you look at it as well, you could probably say that the draw probability maybe could be a little bit higher. So,
yeah, that's a fair
yeah,
point.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed they've got it spot on. But yeah, I can understand that why Sunderland fans might not be particularly happy with that win probability. But I tell you what, let's talk about the players that will go to the Stadium of Light and go and beat Sunderland. And here is what we have picked. Matt, do you want to do the honours as normal?
Yeah, can do. So obviously the man in goal picks himself.
Yeah.
The back four, yeah, a couple of changes. I think Smithy, if he's fit, needs to start. I think we need to
Hmm.
get our captain back in there. I just think, right back, Cook coming in and playing at right back, yeah, he can do a job. We know the Arehu situation. Jimenez, has probably been a bit on and off lately. Let's get Smithy back in there. Let's get the leader back in, and let him lead from the front, and probably help stabilize us a little bit. Milo, the Savage, let's bring him back in. I think
Yeah.
Diakite, again, I think maybe probably since the Palace game is maybe been struggling a little bit. Let's bring Milo in to give Snessi some muscle next to him. Obviously, we've highlighted Isidore and how he can punish. Obviously, Snessi and Trufair, both pick themselves at the minute, in my opinion. In our back four, Adams and Scott. Well, at the minute, this time last year we were saying, Cook and Christie. At the minute you can't dislodge these two guys. And yeah, I think he's going to go similar to what he done last week against West Ham to start. I think it will be your Brooks, your Tavernier, and your Croupy. Croupy obviously playing out wide. And Evan Nelson will lead the line. At the bench is probably a little bit defensively top heavy, possibly. But again, we do have that man, on the bench who can come off, and I'm sure can he be Enes the Menace against Sunderland? Will he be able to come on and cause some issues? Again, who knows? We might have a surprise and he may even start. Who knows?
Well, I can't disagree with any of that. I think that you probably got it spot on. There was, a couple of people that I spoke to that, did say that Krupi should have started up front. But then you think, well, who is going to play, in that position on the right hand side? Do you go with Adley? Is it right to start Adley? Is it his time to step up? Does Tavernier move out to the right? Do we play somebody else through the centre? Maybe Alex Scott could sit in that role, maybe push Ryan Christie into next to Tyler Adams. But then again, there's a lot of question marks. We want to get these players back. Of course, Justin Cliver missing, big loss. Semenyo missing, huge loss. But I think it's still a very, very, very strong side from AFC Bournemouth. So,
Yeah.
I can't disagree. So,
No.
there we are. If you do disagree, though, leave it in the comments section and tell us that we're wrong. And let us know what your lineup would be. And no doubt Mr. Areola will do something that none of us expect, but it will work because he's a bloody genius. But there we are. Well, I think it's almost all we've got time for today. But before we round up, we are going to do the normal, which is predicting this match. And Matt, do you want to do the honours first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on then. You go first.
Right, okay. It's a weird one for me. Because, like I say, Sunderland are very, very strong at the back. I think they've got a lot of quality. Their attacking force are good. They've surprised people. I don't think we'll go up there and get beat, though. I'm confident we'll get something. But I'm questioning whether or not we'll get the 3 points. And I think that the battle in that midfield will be very, very interesting. Granit Xhaka is massive for them and has proved massive. He's proved massive in those big games where they've got impressive results. And you know what? I'm going to say something and I'm going to go against the probability. And I'm going to say that we're going to get a 0-0 draw. I don't normally go for a 0-0 draw, but in all honesty, I think we might cancel each other out. It's going to be an exciting 0-0 draw, but a 0-0 draw all the same, which probably means it's now going to be 4-4.
Yeah, I actually got, do you know what scoreline's in my head? And this is my prediction.
Go for it.
3-3.
3-3.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think something's going to give with the Sunderland back line?
It's got to at some point.
I can see. Do you know what? It's funny. I could see it. I can see Iriola is, as we've said, a tactical genius. He'll probably go into this game. He'll be stood there watching it, and certain things will be doing. And Regis Le Bris will have his side out to firstly stop us in that midfield role, stop us getting forwards, win those battles. But Iriola will do something like he's done so many times beforehand and change that game and maybe unlock Sunderland. All good teams, there's a way to unlock them. No team is, completely unbeatable. Sunderland as a newly promoted club, should take this as a real, confidence booster because of what I'm saying here. But do you know what? I think you've got a point. You've got a point. You've got a point. And it's a credit to them. But there we go. That is our predictions. Let us know. I'm going to go with my 0-0. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if Matt's wrong. By all means, do go and watch our interview with Tom A. Smith. Fantastic singer. Go download his songs as well. He's a brilliant singer, and he'll tell you all about Sunderland. And from a Sunderland's fan's perspective, it's in the interviews tab. So go support him as well. Matt, looking forward to it. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're both wrong. Hopefully the win probability is right. We will get the 3 points, and we'll be sitting even prettier towards the top of the Premier League table. Hey, is it too late to say what we're doing in Leicester? I've shut up about that. Sorry. Until the next one, up the Cherries. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.